Prologue. The First Death. The Osa temple of Illirin blazed was lit with the light of 1,000 oil lamps, their flames flickering against walls painted with gods and demons. Incense curled through the air, thick and intoxicating, laced with the murmurs of priests chanting in distant chambers. At the very heart of the temple, before the sacred fire pit that was said to burn with the breath of the gods, Prince Ademir held her in his arms. The maiden. She was clothed in white, her veil torn, her hair tumbling in wild ebony waves. Her lips trembled against his throat as she whispered, "They will kill us if they find us here." Ademir's jaw was tight, his voice fierce yet tender as his hands cradled her face. "Then let them. I would rather die with you than live 1,000 lifetimes in this emptiness. I have resisted for far too long and you know it." Tears shone in her eyes, though her body pressed into his as though she could merge with him. "We are cursed already, my prince. A maiden of the gods and the heir of the throne, it was never meant to be and will never be. Do not speak of what is meant." His mouth claimed hers with desperate hunger, tasting salt, fire, and forbidden sweetness. The world vanished, the chants, the flames, the dread. There was only her, only them. Their bodies trembled with need, hands grasping, robes slipping, the heat of their desire threatening to ignite the sacred hall. Every kiss was rebellion, every touch was a vow. "Please let me have you," Ademir whispered. "Even if just once, I want to know what it feels like to truly be with a woman of my heart. I will go crazy if I have to walk the rest of my life alone without you." She gasped. Her resolve shattering, she knew that give her innocence to any man spells doom, but she had tried and gods know she had resisted. But this man, this prince consumes every of her waking thoughts and dream. She pulled back. "Your Highness, please," she whispered. "This must never happen. I belong to the gods, Illirin thrives because of our obedience to the gods. We can never become wives to any man, the gods own us, spirit, soul and body." Despite all that has been said, Ademir refused. He dragged her deeper into him, he pressed his lips to her neck inhaling sweet honeyed fragrance off her skin. "Please, be mine in the true sense of how it counts." And her resolve shattered. Right there in the temple of Osa, a maiden meant for the gods was taken by a common man. Yes, a prince, but still he is a mere mortal. Her moans filled the temple and echo right back at her. As she found her release, she thought, "When will I face the consequences of my actions?" And indeed fate had been listening. The temple doors crashed open. Torches flared, and the high priest entered, flanked by armed guards. His face twisted with fury as he pointed a trembling hand at them. "Sacrilege! The prince defiles the maiden consecrated to the gods!" he screamed. The guards surged forward. Ademir, still in the throes of passion, managed to shield her naked body behind him and drew his sword, the steel ringing like thunder. "You will not touch her!" The priest bellowed in fury and started invoking the gods of Osa to intervene. Not long, blood started slicking the marble floor from the prince's mouth as he tried to shield her. "Ademir!" she screamed, falling to her knees beside him. Her hands, stained crimson red, pressed against his wounds. "Stay with me, please." A spear drove through her back. Her cry broke into silence. Her body sagged against his, her blood mingling with his on the temple floor. As the flames roared higher, the high priest lifted his hands to the heavens. "O gods of Osa, let their sin not end with death. Bind them in their lust, their hunger, until they learn sacrifice and honor above desire." And in those last moments, before the darkness claimed him, Ademir pressed his lips to hers, making sure she swallowed some of his blood, and whispered, "If not this life, then the next, I will find you. Always." The gods answered with a voice like thunder, shaking the temple walls. "So be it. Burn and wander, love and lose, until eternity teaches you truth." The flames consumed their bodies, but their souls, restless, bound, and yearning, were cast into the river of time. Chapter 1. A Prince's Restlessness. The bronze gong of dawn echoed across Illirin's royal compound, vibrating through marble walls and gilded pillars. Sunlight spilled into the chamber of Prince Ademir, heir of the throne, painting his skin in molten gold. He did not stir at first. His eyes were fixed on the carved ceiling above his bed, on the mural of gods and warriors, of endless battles. Yet what weighed on him was not war or kingdom politics. It was her. The dream lingered still, vivid and cruel, a pair of eyes that haunted him, soft as moonlight yet burning like fire. The curve of lips whispering his name in a voice that trembled between prayer and hunger. A body pressed against his, desperate and forbidden. Then the scream of steel, the slash of betrayal, and fire consuming everything. Every morning, the same dream. Every night, the same torment. Ademir ran a hand through his thick black hair and exhaled. The palace never slept, and soon servants would flood in with trays of figs, warm bread, and diluted wine. Another day of duties, of courtiers scheming, of his father pressing him toward marriage alliances. He rose, his tall frame cloaked in only a thin linen robe, and stepped out onto the balcony overlooking the courtyard. Already the palace buzzed with life, concubines laughing in the gardens, soldiers drilling near the gates, merchants arriving with bolts of silk and amphorae of oil. And still, he felt hollow. A soft knock came at his chamber doors. His oldest friend and captain of his guard, Kale, entered without waiting for permission. "You're awake early," Kale said, brow raised. "Or perhaps you never slept." Ademir smirked faintly. "You've known me too long. Which do you think?" Kale studied him, his prince's broad shoulders tense, his dark eyes shadowed. "Another dream." Ademir turned back to the courtyard. "Not just a dream. It is always the same woman. Eyes that follow me, lips that call me. Even now I feel her as though she had just left my bed." Kale chuckled softly, though unease flickered beneath. "A phantom lover. Perhaps your body aches for company, and your mind obliges you with visions." "No," Ademir said sharply, then softer. "No. It is different. This woman is not of my imagination. I know her, Kale. I feel her blood in my veins, her breath in my lungs." Kale crossed his arms. "And yet, she does not exist." Ademir's jaw tightened. That was the torment. Before Kale could speak further, a guard entered, bowing deeply. "My prince, the council awaits. The king insists you attend the morning court. There is talk of marriage." Ademir gave a low, humorless laugh. "Marriage. They wish to chain me to a stranger while my very soul yearns for someone I cannot name." Kale placed a hand on his shoulder. "You must hide this longing, brother. To show weakness before the council is to hand them a blade." Ademir nodded, though his chest felt as if it would burst. As he donned his royal tunic of crimson and gold, his mind remained far from council chambers. Somewhere beyond these walls, the woman from his dreams lived. He did not know how, nor why, but he swore by the gods that he would find her. And when he did, he knew he would not resist her, not even if the heavens themselves demanded it. Chapter 2, The Healer's Daughter. The village of Erin, a half-day's ride from the royal city, woke with the scent of damp earth and crushed leaves. Morning mist clung to the thatched roofs and winding dirt paths, blurring the line between dream and waking. In a modest hut at the edge of the settlement, Nayira sat cross-legged on a reed mat, grinding herbs into a wooden bowl. Her hands moved steadily, yet her mind wandered far. Another dream. She had seen him again, broad-shouldered, eyes dark as storm clouds, lips that whispered her name as though it were sacred. In her dream, his arms had crushed her against him, his body trembling as though he both feared and craved her. She had woken gasping, the memory of his touch scorching her skin though she had never known a man's embrace. Her father, Olenril the healer, shuffled inside, leaning heavily on his staff. His eyes, wise but weary, narrowed as he studied her. "Again you stare at nothing, child. Were the gods speaking in your sleep?" Nayira hesitated, lowering her gaze. "Not the gods, Baba. Just dreams. Dreams that leave your skin flushed and your breath ragged." His tone sharpened. "Do not think I do not notice. You must bury them, Nayira. In this kingdom, dreams can be as dangerous as blades. Speak of visions and they will call you cursed. Speak of longing and they will call you unclean." Her lips parted to protest, but she swallowed the words. What could she say? That she knew the man from her dreams. That her body ached as if it remembered his touch. That her heart beat faster whenever she thought of eyes she had never seen in waking life. Instead, she bent her head over the herbs. Yes, Baba, but the images would not leave her. Later that day, Nayira carried a basket of roots and leaves through the village. Children ran barefoot in the dust, women pounded yam in large mortars, men sharpened hoes for the fields. Yet she felt apart from it all, as though some invisible hand tugged her toward a world beyond these narrow paths. Her feet carried her to the edge of the road leading to the capital. She paused, staring at the distant hills, the faint outline of palace towers against the sky. Her breath quickened. He is there. The certainty slammed into her chest. She did not know how she knew, but she did. Daydreaming again. A teasing voice interrupted. Nayira turned to find Kemi, her childhood friend, balancing a clay water pot on her head. The girl smirked, eyes mischievous. "If you keep staring at the king's road, one would think you've caught the prince's fancy." Nayira laughed nervously, though heat bloomed on her cheeks. "Do not speak such foolishness, Kemi." "Foolish?" Kemi tilted her head. "Or true? I see the way your eyes wander, as though searching for someone." Perhaps you were born for more than pounding yam and brewing herbs. Before Nayira could reply, a shout erupted from the road. A trader's cart had overturned, and villagers rushed to help. Instinct guided Nayira's steps. She knelt beside a bleeding boy, pressing cloth to his wound, her fingers steady despite the blood. The boy's mother wept in gratitude. You are your father's daughter. A gift from the gods. But as Nayira looked down at her blood-stained hands, a strange shiver ran through her. A memory not her own, hands entwined with a man's, blood pooling beneath them, the echo of his voice promising, always. Her chest tightened, and she staggered back, gasping. Somewhere, in the heart of the kingdom, he lived. The man of her dreams. The man whose touch she craved though she had never known him. And fate, whether blessing or curse, was already pulling her toward him. Chapter 3, The First Spark. The capital of Ilorin pulsed with life. Merchants bellowed their wares at the market square, goats bleated, and drums thudded in time with the stamping of dancers' feet. The festival of abundance drew villagers from miles around, and for the first time in many moons, Nayira found herself within the city walls. Her basket of herbs clutched close to her chest, she tried to move quickly through the crowds. The palace gates loomed just beyond the market, carved from ivory and bronze, guarded by towering soldiers in crimson armor. Nayira had no business there, but something, that same unseen pull, drew her steps closer. She lingered, staring through the open gates into the vast courtyard beyond. Gold-trimmed banners swayed in the breeze, and the shimmer of marble floors dazzled her eyes. A harsh voice jolted her back. You there. Two palace guards approached, spears pointed. Peasant girl, what business have you at the king's gate? Nayira clutched her basket tighter. I was only passing. Lies, one guard spat, seizing her arm. Spies of rival kingdoms often creep near. Should we drag her inside for questioning? Fear surged through her, but pride flared hotter. Unhand me. She twisted sharply, elbow striking the guard's ribs. The man cursed, staggering back. Gasps rose from nearby onlookers. Villagers froze. To strike a palace guard was a crime punishable by flogging, or worse. Before the guards could recover, a new voice rang out, low, commanding, dangerous. Enough. The crowd parted like waves before the tide. Prince Ademir stepped forward, tall and broad, his crimson cloak trailing behind him. His dark eyes fixed on the scene, unreadable but magnetic. The guards bowed hastily. My prince, we caught this woman lurking near the palace. Ademir's gaze shifted to Nayira. And in that instant, the world tilted. Her breath caught. His face, it was him. The man from her dreams, the one who had kissed her in shadows, who had bled in her arms. Heat rushed through her body, fierce and undeniable. Ademir, too, faltered. His chest tightened, his mouth suddenly dry. Those eyes, he knew them, though he had never seen her before. His dreams surged back, her lips, her whispers, her body trembling beneath his. Release her, Ademir said, his voice rougher than he intended. The guards blinked. But, my prince, I said release her. Nayira's arm was freed. She rubbed the reddened skin, her chin lifted despite her pounding heart. Ademir studied her, every detail imprinting itself on his mind. The stubborn tilt of her jaw, the fullness of her lips, the way her plain cotton dress did nothing to hide the curve of her body. Desire slammed into him, sharp and consuming. Your name, he demanded, softer now, almost a plea. Her lips parted. For a heartbeat, she wanted to lie, to vanish, to escape the dangerous intensity of his stare. But the truth left her tongue before she could stop it. Nayira. The syllables curled through him like fire. He repeated it under his breath, tasting it, savoring it. You are far from your village, Nayira, he said, forcing calm into his tone. Go home. The palace is not a place for you. Her chest tightened at his words, at the finality in them. But her voice was steady. Perhaps. Or perhaps it is exactly where I am meant to be. Something flickered in his eyes, recognition, fear, hunger. For a long moment, neither moved. The crowd around them seemed to fade until it was only the two of them, locked in a pull older than time itself. Finally, Ademir turned sharply, striding back into the palace, his cloak whipping behind him. But his heart pounded, and his hands trembled at his sides. Behind him, Nayira watched his retreat, her pulse wild, her body burning from the way his gaze had stripped her bare. They had found each other. And nothing, not gods, not curses, not thrones, would ever quench the fire now stirring between them. Chapter 4, Drawn to Fire. The night after the festival was restless. In his chambers, Prince Ademir paced like a caged lion. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, the girl with fire in her stare and defiance in her voice. Nayira. The name burned his tongue, whispered into the silence like a prayer. Why do you haunt me? He muttered, gripping the stone balustrade of his balcony until his knuckles whitened. The memory of her lips, unclaimed yet already his, tormented him. He should have forgotten her, dismissed her as a foolish peasant. But he could not. By the next morning, an excuse presented itself. The royal physician spoke of an herb, rare and difficult to find, needed for the king's lingering cough. Ademir offered to ride into the village outskirts himself, under the guise of hunting. His advisors were baffled, but none dared question him. And so, by afternoon, his black stallion carried him into Aran, where smoke rose lazily from village huts and the air was heavy with the scent of roasted yams and wood fire. He found her easily. She knelt outside her father's hut, grinding leaves in a clay bowl, the sun catching in her hair. Sweat glistened on her skin, and though her dress was simple, she wore it like a queen without knowing. Ademir dismounted, his presence casting a shadow over her. Nayira looked up, and froze. The pestle slipped from her hand, striking the ground with a dull thud. You, her voice was a whisper, half awe, half accusation. Me, he said softly, though his voice carried the weight of command. Her father emerged then, startled to see royalty at his threshold. Bowing deeply, he welcomed the prince. My lord, to what do we owe this honor? Ademir's eyes never left Nayira. I am told you are skilled in healing. The king requires certain herbs. The healer bustled about, preparing what was needed. But Ademir remained outside with Nayira, the air thick with unspoken words. You should not be here, she said at last, her tone low, urgent. Perhaps not, Ademir admitted, stepping closer. But tell me, Nayira, do you not feel it? She looked away, heart pounding. Feel what? His hand lifted, almost against his will, brushing against hers as he took the bowl from her grip. The touch sent a shiver up both their arms. This pull, he murmured, his eyes dark and searching. As if I have known you all my life. As if I have dreamed of you 1,000 times. Her breath hitched. How could he know? How could he say what she had kept buried? I do not know you, she whispered, though the lie tasted bitter. Ademir leaned closer, his lips near her ear, his breath hot against her skin. Then why, Nayira, does my heart race when you are near? Why does every part of me scream that you are mine? She closed her eyes, trembling. His nearness was intoxicating, dangerous. She wanted to melt into him, to let him devour her, but fear anchored her feet. You are a prince, she said finally, forcing distance between them. And I am nothing but a healer's daughter. You are not nothing. His voice was fierce, possessive. You are everything I have been searching for. The intensity of his words burned her. For a heartbeat, the world faded, the sounds of the village, the calls of children, even her father's rustling inside the hut. There was only the two of them, hearts thundering in dangerous rhythm. Her father re-emerged then, breaking the moment. He handed Ademir a pouch of herbs. May this bring the king healing and strength. Ademir nodded, accepting it with a stiff bow. His gaze lingered on Nayira, his voice lower, softer. This will not be the last time we meet. Then he was gone, mounting his stallion and riding back toward the city. Nayira stood rooted, her chest heaving, her skin still burning where his hand had brushed hers. She pressed trembling fingers to her lips, whispering to herself, what curse is this? Yet deep in her bones, she knew the truth. This was no curse. This was fate. Chapter 5, Dangerous Proximity. The king's cough had persisted, even though the herbal medicine from Olenral had eased the king for a bit, but the cough that worsened with each day and his day turned into weeks. The royal physicians, though skilled, failed to ease his suffering. Rumors spread, was it poison, or a curse? The people whispered of omens, the gods displeased, storms brewing. And so, when the physicians spoke of a village healer's daughter with uncanny skill in herbs, the queen mother herself commanded her presence. Thus Nayira entered the palace, not as a wanderer at its gates, nor as a girl caught trespassing, but as a healer with a purpose. The marble floors beneath her sandals gleamed like still water. Servants bowed as she passed, some with curiosity, others with suspicion. Her simple white dress looked out of place amidst silks and gold, yet she carried herself with quiet grace. Ademir watched from the shadows of a colonnade, every muscle taut. The sight of her walking through his world was both a thrill and a torment. Kale, standing beside him, muttered, so it is her. The girl from the festival gates. Ademir didn't answer. His eyes followed Nayira's every step, the sway of her hips, the way her hands cradled the pouch of herbs to her chest as though it were armor. She does not belong here, Kale said carefully. And you look at her as though she were already yours. She is mine, Ademir said under his breath. His friend shot him a sharp look, but the prince had already moved, striding toward her. Nayira felt him before she saw him, the sudden stillness in the air, the invisible thread tugging her spine. She turned, and there he was, Prince Ademir, every inch of him carved from fire and shadow, crimson cloak trailing behind like spilled blood. Prince Ademir, she whispered, bowing slightly. His lips quirked. So you do know my name. How could I not? You are the heir of Illirin. Every villager knows you. And yet, he stepped closer, his voice low, when you speak it sounds different. As if it belongs only to you. Her pulse hammered. You should not speak so, she said quickly, though her feet refused to move away. And you should not look at me the way you do, he countered softly, his gaze burning into hers. Nayira swallowed hard, clutching her pouch of herbs tighter. I am here for the king. Nothing more, nothing more. His eyes flicked to her lips, lingering. Then why does the sight of you unravel me? The words stole her breath. She tried to answer, but the Queen Mother's voice rang from inside the king's chamber. Healer, bring your remedies. Nayira tore her gaze from his, stepping past him quickly. Yet as she brushed by, her arm grazed his. The contact was fleeting, innocent to any onlooker, but it set her skin ablaze. Ademir clenched his fists, fighting the urge to drag her into the shadows and taste the truth of her lips. Over the days that followed, Nayira tended the king, preparing poultices, teas, and burning herbs that cleared the old man's chest. But her real trial was not the illness, it was Ademir. Everywhere she went, she felt him near. In the courtyard, his gaze followed her as she gathered water. In the kitchens, his footsteps echoed just behind hers. In the gardens, his hand brushed hers as he passed her a goblet. Their conversations were brief but charged. You should be wary, Nayira, he murmured once, when they crossed paths near the lotus pond. The palace is full of eyes. Then stop staring at me, she snapped softly. He chuckled, stepping closer, so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Impossible. Her breath caught, the night air thick with unspoken things. She turned sharply, leaving him before her resolve crumbled. But the hunger in his gaze followed her long after. One evening, as dusk painted the sky in blood and gold, Nayira carried a tray of herbs to the king's chamber. Passing a narrow corridor, she nearly collided with Ademir. The tray wobbled. He caught it with one hand, his other steadying her by the waist. Their bodies froze, chests brushing, lips inches apart. The air crackled. Careful, he murmured, voice husky. You nearly fell. Her heart thundered. She should have pulled away. She should have scolded him. Instead, she whispered, maybe it was you I was falling into. The moment stretched, his breath mingling with hers, his fingers tightening just slightly at her waist. He leaned in. Footsteps echoed down the hall. They sprang apart, hearts racing. But the damage was done. The fire between them was no longer a spark. It was an inferno, and the palace walls would not contain it for long. Chapter 6, The Forbidden Kiss. The palace had grown hushed after nightfall, its stone corridors echoing with only the shuffle of guards' sandals. A silver moon spilled its light across the lotus pond, bathing the courtyard in a ghostly glow. Nayira wandered there alone, seeking calm. The scent of damp earth and lilies soothed her, yet her chest was a storm. No matter how she tried, she could not banish him from her thoughts. His eyes, dark fire. His touch, searing, even through cloth. His words, danger wrapped in honey. Why him? Why now? You should not be alone. The voice came from behind, deep in velvet. Her pulse quickened before she even turned. Prince Ademir. Her tone was soft, but her heart was a thunderclap. You should not follow me. And yet, he said, stepping from the shadows, here I am. He moved closer, the moonlight tracing the hard lines of his jaw, the breadth of his shoulders. Nayira's breath faltered. You tempt danger, she whispered, backing away until her spine brushed the cool stone of the garden wall. Danger tempts me, he countered, his body closing the space between them. His hand braced against the wall beside her head, trapping her in the cage of his presence. Her lips parted, words failing her as his scent surrounded her, spice, steel, and something untamed. You consume my thoughts, Nayira, he confessed, his voice raw. I close my eyes, and it is your face I see. Your voice, your touch I have yet to taste but already crave. Her chest heaved, torn between denial and surrender. You cannot say such things, she breathed. Why not? He said, his gaze falling to her mouth. For a moment, silence stretched. The night itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, with aching slowness, Ademir lowered his head. Their lips brushed. Feather-light, testing, forbidden. Nayira gasped, but instead of pushing him away, her hands found his chest, clutching the fabric of his tunic. The second kiss came harder, hungrier. His lips claimed hers with years of pent-up longing, as though time itself had starved him. Her back pressed deeper against the wall as his body leaned into hers, not crushing but commanding, his heat enveloping her. One hand slid to the curve of her waist, fingers digging gently as if to memorize her shape. Nayira's world spun. The kiss deepened, tongues tangling, breath mingling, the taste of him intoxicating. She moaned softly against his mouth, a sound that nearly undid him. He tore his lips from hers only to trail them along her jaw, down to the hollow of her throat, where her pulse fluttered wildly. Ademir, she gasped, her nails biting into his chest through his tunic. This is madness. No, this is passion, even though I cannot explain why, he growled against her skin, pressing a trail of heated kisses back up to her mouth. Time lost all meaning. For a moment, there was no kingdom, no duty, no danger. Only two souls burning in the fire of recognition, of desire too strong to cage. Enough. The voice shattered the night. They froze, breaths ragged, lips still inches apart. Slowly, they turned. At the edge of the courtyard stood the high priestess of Ilurin, her silhouette stark in the moonlight, her staff glowing faintly with carved symbols. Her eyes were not merely angry, they were sorrowful. She stared at them for what seemed like eternity, but was only few seconds. You dare awaken the bond, she said, her voice carrying the weight of prophecy. The gods have not forgotten what happened last time. Do you wish to repeat the doom of your souls? Nayira stumbled back from Ademir as though burned, her hand flying to her lips. Her chest heaved, fear and desire warring within her. Ademir, however, did not flinch. His jaw clenched, eyes blazing. I will not deny what is mine. Not again. Where had that come from? He does not even understanding what the priestess was saying. The priestess's gaze pierced them both. Then be warned, Prince of Fire and Daughter of Earth. Your love is older than this kingdom. And if you are not careful, it will destroy more than just your hearts. Her staff struck the ground with a thundering echo, and the torches along the walls flared to life as if by unseen hands. By the time Nayira blinked, the priestess was gone. Only the echo of her warning remained, along with the taste of Ademir still burning on her lips. Chapter 7, Hunger Unchained. Sleep refused Prince Ademir that night. He lay in his chamber, staring at the ceiling carved with golden constellations. The sheets twisted around him, damp with sweat, his body restless as though set ablaze from within. He could still taste her. Sweet, forbidden, intoxicating, like wild honey laced with fire. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her lips parting beneath his, heard the soft gasp she made when his mouth found her throat. His hands twitched at the memory of her waist beneath his palm, soft, delicate, yet strong enough to push kingdoms into ruin. Gods, he muttered, dragging a hand across his face. His chest heaved with the weight of desire. He should have heeded the priestess. He should have walked away. Instead, the warning only deepened the craving. If the gods themselves tried to tear her from me, he would fight them all. He rose from his bed and crossed to the balcony, the night air cool against his fevered skin. Below, the palace gardens stretched wide, but all he saw was her figure pressed to the wall, lips swollen from his kiss, eyes wide with a hunger that matched his own. His blood surged. He gripped the balustrade so hard his knuckles turned white. The door creaked open. Kale entered quietly, finding his prince half wild in the moonlight. You haven't slept, Kale said, though it was not a question. Ademir's jaw clenched. How could I, when every breath I take tastes of her? Kale sighed, weary. She is dangerous, Ademir. I saw the priestess's face, I was coming to find you. This bond is cursed, do you not think we should go to her for more understanding? Your desire may be your undoing. Ademir turned, eyes blazing with a ferocity that startled even his closest friend. Then let it undo me. I would rather burn in her arms. Kale stared at him for a long moment, then shook his head. You speak like a man possessed. Perhaps I am, Ademir whispered, turning back to the night. His voice was low, hoarse with need. Because I crave her, Kale. Not just her touch, not just her lips. I crave her laughter, her defiance, her spirit. She is carved into me. She has always been. No priestess, no curse which I do not believe by the way, no kingdom can rip her from my soul. His chest rose and fell heavily, desire and defiance warring within him. I will have her, he swore to the stars, his voice thick with hunger. Even if it costs me everything. Kale left him in silence, knowing there was no reasoning with him now. Ademir remained, fists clenched, body trembling with the ache of want. His heart was no longer his own, it belonged to Nayira. And gods help anyone who tried to keep him from her. Chapter 8, Bound by Fire. Nayira did not return to her chamber that night in peace. She lay on the narrow bed given to her in the healer's quarters of the palace, staring at the low ceiling. The room was quiet, but her blood was anything but. Her lips were still swollen, her breath shallow, her skin tingling where his hands had dared to touch. She pressed trembling fingers to her mouth, closing her eyes. What have I done? The taste of him lingered, wine, spice, and something darker, more dangerous. She had kissed a prince. Not just kissed, devoured him, and been devoured in turn. Her thighs pressed together unconsciously, heat cooling in her belly at the memory of his body caging hers, his voice rough as he growled her name against her throat. "Oh gods," she whispered into the night, clutching the blanket. The priestess's words echoed sharply in her ears. "Do you wish to repeat the doom of your souls?" Her heart wavered between terror and longing. The warning should have driven her away, should have carved steel between her and Ademir. But instead, it only deepened the ache. Because the truth was undeniable, she wanted him. Every time his eyes found her in the palace halls, her knees weakened. Every brush of his hand sent fire lacing through her veins. Every word spoken in that low, commanding tone undid her completely. And yet, "I cannot be the ruin of a kingdom," she murmured to herself, though the words rang hollow. Her mind warred with her body, reason clashing with desire. She told herself she would resist, that she would avoid him, that the kiss had been a mistake. But her body betrayed her, arching at the memory of his mouth, clenching at the thought of his hands sliding lower, claiming more. Nayira buried her face in her pillow, muffling a frustrated cry. Why him? Why now? A part of her already knew the answer. The moment their eyes met at the festival, something ancient had awakened. She could deny him in words, but not in spirit. Her chest rose and fell sharply. She remembered the way he had looked at her, not as a prince looks at a healer's daughter, but as a starving man looks at the only food left in the world. And gods help her, she wanted to be devoured. At dawn, she rose, her body weary from a night without sleep. She splashed cool water on her face, braided her hair back, and prepared herself for duty. Yet as she stepped into the sunlight of the palace corridors, her resolve trembled. Because she knew, without doubt, without denial, Ademir would find her again. And when he did, she feared she would not have the strength to resist him a second time. Chapter 9, Behind Closed Doors. The palace was alive with celebration that evening. Musicians played in the courtyards, nobles feasted in the grand hall, and dancers spun in a blur of jeweled skirts. To honor the king's slow recovery, the queen mother had declared a festival of light. Nayira stood at the edge of it all, clutching a goblet of palm wine, pretending to be invisible. Servants bustled around her, laughter and music filling the air, but none of it reached her. Her gaze, unwilling and weak, drifted again and again toward him. Prince Ademir. He sat at the high table, golden crown glinting in the torchlight, his crimson tunic clinging to the breadth of his shoulders. His eyes, however, were not on the nobles or the feast. They were on her. Every time their eyes met, her stomach twisted, heat rushing low in her belly. She looked away quickly, but her skin burned where his stare touched. When the dances began and all eyes were drawn to the performers, she slipped quietly from the courtyard, needing air, needing space. Her sandals padded softly across the stone until she reached the quieter eastern corridor. But she was not alone. "You run from me," his voice came from the shadows, smooth and dangerous. Nayira spun. Ademir stepped from the dark, his cloak flowing behind him, eyes smoldering like embers refusing to die. I needed air," she stammered, backing a step. "You needed escape," he corrected, closing the distance between them. "But you cannot escape what binds us, Nayira." Her back brushed the wall again, her chest rising and falling sharply. "This is madness. If anyone sees, they will not." His hand slid to hers, threading their fingers together, his thumb brushing the back of her knuckles. "I have waited too long to be near you again." Her resolve wavered under the intensity of his gaze. "We cannot." But his mouth silenced her. The kiss was not tentative this time. It was deep, consuming, the hunger of a man starved for too long. His lips crushed hers, and she melted against him, her goblet clattering to the floor, forgotten. Her hands clutched his shoulders, nails digging through fabric as his body pressed hers into the wall. His other hand slid to her hip, anchoring her as though she might vanish. Nayira gasped into his mouth when his lips trailed lower, along her jaw, down the curve of her throat. Ademir, her voice was a plea, half resistance, half desperate need. You are mine, he growled softly against her skin. Say it, she shuddered, her body betraying her mind, her thighs pressing together with aching need. I cannot. Yes, you can. His teeth grazed the tender skin of her neck, drawing a whimper from her lips. You feel it too, the fire, the hunger, it will consume us both. Her breath came ragged, her body arching toward his against her will. His hands framed her face, forcing her eyes to meet his. I crave you, Nayira, he whispered, raw and broken. Not for a night, not for a stolen kiss. For eternity. Her heart clenched. The priestess's warning echoed in her mind, but in that moment, wrapped in his heat, drowning in his eyes, she could not care. Her lips found his again, fiercer this time, surrendering to the storm. His hand slid to the small of her back, pulling her flush against the hard planes of his body, the press of his desire unmistakable. She gasped at the sensation, her knees weakening, her body trembling with need. If not for the sound of footsteps echoing down the corridor, they might have lost themselves entirely. Ademir tore his mouth from hers, panting, his forehead pressed to hers. They stood locked together in silence, waiting as the footsteps faded away. When they were gone, he exhaled shakily. Next time, he vowed, his voice low, dangerous, promising. I will not stop. Nayira's chest heaved as she clung to him, torn between terror and hunger. And when next time comes? She whispered. His lips brushed her ear. I swear to the gods no one will keep me from you. I will have you. Chapter 10, The Echoes of Before. Nayira tossed restlessly in her chamber, her body restless though the palace lay still. Sleep had not been her friend in weeks. Every time her eyes closed, the dreams came. Ademir, always Ademir. Sometimes, she saw him as he was now, a prince cloaked in fire and shadow, reaching for her with hands that burned her skin in the sweetest way. Other times, he was different, his face familiar but framed in strange armor, his voice echoing words she did not yet understand. In one dream, she lay in his arms on a battlefield, blood on his chest, her own tears falling hot against his skin. In another, he held her beneath a great tree, vowing eternity as the world crumbled around them. Each time, she woke gasping, her lips swollen, her body aching as though he had truly been there. And when she tried to push the images away, her own treacherous hands betrayed her, craving the touch she could not have. Why can't I escape you? She whispered into the darkness, her thighs trembling, her body betraying her with every thought of his lips, his heat, his voice. By dawn, her resolve was dust. She could not endure it alone. The high priestess came for her that morning, her staff clicking against the marble floors as she entered Nayira's chamber uninvited. You are restless, the priestess said, her eyes sharp, unreadable. Nayira bowed her head, voice trembling. I dream of him. Every night. It feels as though I am losing my mind. My body, it burns for him even when I try to resist. The priestess studied her in silence, then beckoned with a bony hand. Walk with me. They passed through a hidden corridor, descending stone steps that smelled of earth and incense. At last, they entered the temple below, a place few had ever seen. Carvings lined the walls, figures of lovers locked in embrace, then torn apart by war and flame. The priestess lit a flame at the altar and turned to her. You are not losing your mind, child. You are remembering. Nayira frowned, her hands trembling at her sides. Yes. The priestess's voice was heavy with sorrow. This is not the first time your soul has loved the Prince of Fire. You and he have been bound across lifetimes. In each, you find one another. And in each, your passion has brought ruin. Nayira's breath caught. Her eyes darted to the carvings again. Two figures, one crowned in flame, the other cloaked in earth, embracing as a city burned around them. No, she whispered, shaking her head. That cannot be. It is truth. The priestess's gaze was unflinching. Once, long ago, you were a daughter of the earth, and he a warrior king. Your love defied the gods themselves. But it ended in blood. Each time you are reborn, the bond returns, stronger, hungrier, harder to resist. And each time, destruction follows. Nayira staggered back, clutching her chest. Her heart raced, her body trembling. Then why do I crave him so deeply? Even knowing this, I cannot stop. When he touches me, I feel whole. As if I have been starving all my life and only now begun to eat. The priestess's voice softened, because your souls know one another. Desire is the chain that binds you. But chains, child, can drag you down as easily as they lift you. Nayira's knees nearly buckled. Tears stung her eyes, not only from fear but from the torment of longing. What must I do? She whispered. The priestess turned, her staff glowing faintly. You must decide, Nayira, will you deny him, and save this kingdom from fire? Or will you embrace him, and damn us all to repeat history? Her voice echoed through the chamber like a curse. And yet, beneath the weight of those words, Nayira's body still burned. Her lips still ached for his. Her heart still beat his name. She buried her face in her palms, trembling. Gods help me, I cannot let him go. Chapter 11, Fire Against Fate. Nayira tried to avoid him. For 2 days, she buried herself in her duties, preparing herbs for the king, tending the gardens, keeping her steps light and her gaze lowered whenever she felt the sear of his eyes on her from across the halls. But she could not hide forever. Ademir found her in the library at dusk, the light of the setting sun spilling in red across the scrolls and carved shelves. She stood with her back to him, staring blindly at a page she had not read, her heart racing the moment she sensed him there. You've been running from me, he said, his voice low, dangerous in its restraint. Her hands tightened on the scroll. Ever since her conversation with the priestess, she has been looking for information on intertwined souls, reincarnation and love that goes beyond time and season. I have not. She whispered. Do not lie to me, Nayira. His footsteps approached, slow and deliberate. You kissed me as though your soul belonged to mine, and then you vanish as though I were poison. Her throat tightened. She turned, and there he was, fire in his eyes, shoulders tense, his presence filling the room. I should have told you sooner, she whispered. Told me what? He stepped closer, stopping just before her, his heat washing over her. What torment makes you fear me when you crave me as much as I crave you? Nayira's chest heaved, her voice trembled. The priestess came to me. She showed me the truth. You and I, we have lived before. Many times. And always, we find each other. And always it ends in ruin. Ademir stilled, his jaw tightening. Absolute nonsense. And you believed her? You don't understand, she pressed, tears stinging her eyes. The dreams I've had, I've seen you die in my arms. I've seen kingdoms burn around us. Our love is cursed, Ademir. We are cursed. For a long moment, silence filled the library, heavy as stone. Then Ademir reached for her, his hand cupping her cheek, forcing her eyes to his. No, Nayira, what you call curse, I call fate. Do you not see? Even death cannot sever us. Even gods cannot keep us apart. That is not a curse, it is power. Her breath hitched. His thumb brushed away a tear, his touch searing against her skin. You fear the fire, he whispered, his lips inches from hers. But I would rather burn with you 1,000 times than live once without your touch. Nayira's resolve wavered, her body betraying her with a shudder. And what if this time, we bring destruction again? What if your kingdom falls because of me? Then let it fall, he said fiercely. Let it all fall. I would trade every crown, every stone of this palace, for one lifetime of you in my arms. Her lips parted, trembling, her body drawn to him like the tide to the moon. You are madness, she whispered, though her voice was thick with longing. His forehead pressed to hers, his breath hot against her lips. Then let us be mad together. She should have pushed him away. She should have run, but instead, her hands fisted his tunic, pulling him down into a kiss that stole the last of her restraint. The scroll slipped from her hand, forgotten, as his mouth claimed hers, fierce and desperate. Their bodies pressed together, fire meeting fire, neither willing to surrender to fate, at least not tonight. Chapter 12, The Night of Surrender. The corridors were silent that night, the palace draped in shadows. But Nayira's body was loud, every breath, every pulse, every shiver in her skin called his name. She had tried to sleep, but her dreams betrayed her, painting him in flame and heat, whispering his voice against her ear until she could no longer bear the ache. And then, he came. Ademir slipped into her chamber like a storm barely restrained, his shoulders tense, his eyes burning with that same hunger she had seen in the library. You should not be here, Nayira whispered, though her body leaned toward him as though gravity itself had chosen him as her anchor. He shut the door behind him, locking them away from the world. Say the word, and I'll leave. But do not lie to me again. You want me as I want you. Her lips trembled. I cannot stop thinking of you. Even when I close my eyes, I feel your touch on me. Ademir crossed the room in 2 strides, his hand lifting her chin so she could not look away. Then stop fighting it. For a moment, the silence between them roared louder than any storm. Then Nayira broke, surging forward, pressing her mouth to his with the desperation of someone starved. The kiss was fire and surrender, wild and consuming. His hands slid over her waist, pulling her flush against him, and she moaned into his lips, her fingers clutching at his tunic as though he might vanish if she let go. You undo me, Ademir groaned against her mouth, his lips trailing down the line of her jaw, his teeth grazing her throat. Every time you breathe, I crave you more. Do you feel it too? This fire that refuses to die? Yes, she gasped, tilting her head to grant him more of her skin. Gods help me, yes. Her gown slipped from her shoulder as his hand traced down her arm, slow, reverent, almost trembling as though he were memorizing her. She shivered, every inch of her skin alive beneath his touch. He paused, searching her eyes, his chest heaving. Tell me to stop, and I will. But Nayira shook her head, her voice breathless, pleading. Don't you dare stop. That was all he needed. Their mouths collided again, hungrier now, their bodies pressing against the bed until they tumbled onto it, tangled in sheets and shadows. His hands explored her with aching reverence, every curve and hollow worshipped like sacred ground. Her own fingers slid beneath his tunic, desperate to feel the heat of his skin, the hard lines of his body. When he finally bared himself to her, she gasped, her hands trembling against his chest. He was beautiful, fierce and vulnerable all at once, a warrior undone by desire. You are mine, Nayira, he murmured against her lips, his voice rough with hunger. Not fate's, not the gods. Mine, and you, she whispered, arching beneath him as his lips traced down her body. Always yours. What followed was fire and surrender, a storm of touch and sound, their cries muffled against each other's skin. The world outside ceased to exist. There was no curse, no kingdom, no destiny, only two souls colliding, desperate, insatiable. By the time their bodies stilled, slick with sweat and trembling from release, Ademir held her tightly against his chest, his lips pressed to her hair. If this is ruin, he whispered, voice ragged, then let us be ruined together. Nayira closed her eyes, her body still humming with him, her heart lost. Then ruin me again, and again. And he did, until the night itself seemed to bow before them. Chapter 17, The Confrontation. The royal hall was heavy with silence. The king had retreated to his chambers after the night of chaos, shaken by the river's blackening and the cracks in the sky. Advisors whispered of omens, generals whispered of war. But it was the high priestess who acted first. She entered the hall like a storm-given flesh, her staff striking the floor with each step. Her eyes burned with fire older than stone, her presence forcing servants and guards alike to shrink back. Ademir sat on the dais, his posture proud, his jaw set. Nayira lingered at his side, pale with worry, her fingers twisting in her robe. The priestess's gaze cut straight to them. So it is true, she hissed. The curse has been awakened. Ademir rose to his feet, unflinching. Do not speak in riddles, priestess. If the earth quakes and the rivers rot, it is the will of the gods, not the fault of mortal men. Her staff slammed against the marble, the crack echoing through the hall. Do not dare defy me, boy. You know well the truth. I see the stain of her touch on you. I smell her fire on your skin. The gods do not tremble for nothing. Nayira gasped, shame and fear washing over her. She lowered her eyes, but Ademir moved closer, standing before her as though shielding her from the priestess's wrath. Enough, he growled. You would call love a sin. You would curse what even death cannot sever. Love, the priestess's voice rose like thunder. You speak of love when you court destruction. In every life, you cling to her, and in every life kingdoms fall. Do you not see? The gods themselves have marked you as a lesson, and yet you defy them still. Ademir's hand reached back, catching Nayira's trembling fingers. His voice deepened, steady, unyielding. If they call it a curse, then I will embrace it. If they call it ruin, then I will walk gladly into fire. But do not mistake me, priestess, I will never release her. Not in this life, not in the next or in any other. Nayira's heart ached at his words, her tears spilling silently. Her body shook, torn between terror of the gods and the fierce devotion in his grip. The priestess's face twisted with both fury and sorrow. She lifted her staff, its tip glowing with a pale, searing light. Then hear me, Prince of Fire, Daughter of Earth. If you do not sever this bond, if you do not renounce this path, the gods will unleash a storm greater than any your kingdom has ever known. You will not only burn yourselves, you will burn us all. Her voice thundered through the hall, rattling the very walls, and for a heartbeat, the flames in the braziers flared high, roaring as though the gods themselves had spoken through her. But Ademir did not flinch. His arm wrapped around Nayira, pulling her against him. His lips brushed her hair as he whispered, loud enough for all to hear. Then let the gods strike me down. She is mine, and I am hers. Gasps rippled through the onlookers. The priestess's hand trembled on her staff, her eyes wide with despair. So be it, she whispered, her voice breaking like glass. You have chosen fire over fate. May the ashes not consume us all. She turned and stormed from the hall, her robes billowing like a shadow of doom, leaving behind silence so heavy it pressed on every chest. Nayira buried her face against Ademir's chest, her voice muffled. What have we done? Ademir kissed her brow fiercely, his heart pounding. We have chosen love, but above them, thunder cracked though the skies were clear. And the gods watched. Chapter 18, The Council of Shadows. The royal chamber was lit only by the glow of oil lamps. Heavy tapestries muffled the night winds, though faintly the sound of restless voices outside carried through, the people were beginning to whisper of omens. Oba Adedeji sat heavily on his carved throne of ebony, his face weary, his crown feeling heavier than iron. Queen Mother Aderonk, radiant even in her unease, sat close, her hand curled on the arm of her chair as though holding herself still. The doors opened with a crash. The high priestess swept inside, her staff clutched in white-knuckled hands. Her face was drawn tight, fury and despair etched into the creases of her brow. She bowed, but it was a bow heavy with anger. My king, my queen, her voice trembled with restrained fire. The hour has come, the curse has awakened. The king straightened. You speak in riddles, priestess. What curse do you mean? The queen leaned forward, her voice softer, sharper. You tremble. Tell us plainly. The priestess's eyes flashed. Your son, Prince Ademir, has defiled sacred law. He has bound himself to the maiden Nayira in the ways of passion. Their souls burn against the will of the gods. This is not mere desire, it is the rebirth of a doomed love, one that in past lives has dragged kingdoms into ruin. Already the earth trembles. Already the skies darken. The queen's lips parted in horror. Nayira, the maiden, the healer's daughter. Yes, a healer in the lifetime, the priestess spat, her voice shaking. But in the lifetime that counts, she was destined for service, to appease the gods. Instead she lies in your son's arms, and the flames of their joining have summoned shadows older than this land. The Oba surged to his feet, fury rising in his chest. Ademir dares defy not only me, but the gods themselves. He would shame this kingdom for lust. The queen reached for him, her voice breaking. He is our son, my lord. Do not speak of him as if he is a stranger. The king shook her off, pacing like a caged lion. If he continues, we are all undone. Do you not hear her words? The earth itself rejects this union. The queen rose, her composure cracking. And yet, can you not see? If their bond has survived death, if it has defied time itself, what if it is more than a curse? What if it is a truth the gods fear? The priestess's staff struck the marble, silencing the chamber. Her eyes, sharp as blades, turned on the queen. Beware, queen, such words border on blasphemy. The gods do not fear, they rule. And they have ruled against this union since the first breath of their souls. Love or curse, it does not matter. If they do not sever, they will bring death to all of us. Silence fell. The flames of the lamps guttered as though listening. King Adedeji sank slowly back into his throne, his face shadowed. What must be done? The priestess's answer was swift, merciless. Separate them, by force, if need be. If he will not bend, break him. Send Nayira into exile, bind her to the temple walls, cleanse her with fire and chants. Only then may the gods be appeased. The queen gasped, her hand flying to her chest. You would burn her. You would destroy the girl for what both their hearts cannot resist. The priestess's eyes softened, but only with pity, never mercy. Better one heart broken than a kingdom turned to ash. The king's fists clenched on the arms of his throne. His gaze was torn between the woman who had borne him children and the spiritual guide who had never once been wrong. For the first time, doubt clouded his certainty. And outside, thunder cracked again though the skies were clear. Chapter 19, Wrath of the Crown. The throne room was suffocating with silence when the guards dragged Nayira forward. Her wrists were bound with rough rope, though her head was held high, her eyes defiant even as fear shivered beneath her skin. Ademir stormed into the chamber moments after, his chest heaving, his voice a thunderclap. Father! King Adedeji sat tall upon the throne, his crown gleaming in the torchlight, but his eyes were dark with fury. The queen sat beside him, her face pale, her lips pressed tight as if holding back a scream. Release her, Ademir growled, striding toward Nayira. The guards tightened their hold, but the prince's glare nearly made them falter. King Ademir rose, his voice shaking the hall. Ademir, you shame me. You shame your blood, your gods, your people. The high priestess has spoken. This girl's presence is poison. For her defiance and yours, I have decreed her exile. Ademir froze, his heart slamming against his ribs. Exile. The king's voice was a blade. At dawn, she will be cast into the evil forest. Let the spirits judge her fate. Gasps rippled through the court. The evil forest was no mere punishment, it was a death sentence. A land of restless spirits, wild beasts, and curses older than the kingdom itself. Nayira could not control her tears, she thought of her father. The only family she has left, yet she thought of him in the back of her mind. Ademir consumed all, and now that she's doomed to faith, she remembers her father. No, Ademir's voice cracked with rage. He stepped forward, standing between Nayira and the throne. His fists clenched, his body trembling with the urge to draw his blade even against his father. You would condemn her to die for loving me? The king's eyes narrowed. For dooming us all. Ademir's chest rose and fell rapidly, his voice dropping into a guttural growl. Then send me with her. If she dies, I will not live. If she burns, I will burn. Do you not see? You cannot tear us apart. Not now, not ever. Nayira's breath hitched. Her eyes filled with tears, but her lips trembled with both fear and awe. She whispered, almost too soft to hear, Ademir. Queen Aderonk rose, her voice breaking as she clutched at her husband's arm. My husband. He is your son, look at him, he will not yield. You would sacrifice not only the girl but your own blood. But the king's fury was unyielding. He wrenched his arm free. I would sacrifice one to save thousands. Better my son curses me than my kingdom curses my name. If he chooses death with her, then so be it, he has made his choice. But I will not have their love bring ruin to my people. His gaze locked on the guards. Prepare her. At first light, she enters the forest. The guards moved, dragging Nayira back. She struggled, calling out, Ademir. Her voice cracked like a breaking branch. Ademir lunged forward, but soldiers blocked his path. His body surged with fury, but even his strength could not overpower 10 men. His roar echoed through the hall, raw and desperate. Father, you doom yourself. If you cast her out, I swear by my blood, I will follow her into the shadows. You will lose not just a girl, but your heir. The king's jaw tightened, but he did not speak. His silence was heavier than thunder. Nayira's cries faded as the guards pulled her away, her eyes never leaving Ademir's until the last moment. And when the doors slammed shut, the prince dropped to his knees in the center of the hall, his breath ragged, his body trembling with rage and grief. His father's throne loomed above him, but all he could feel was the empty space where Nayira's warmth had been. The queen's tears fell silently as she whispered into the cold air, the gods will not forgive us for this. She approached her son to comfort him. And for the first time, even King Ademir looked away, his crown heavier than stone. Chapter 20, The Eternal Bond. The night was still, heavy with the weight of the king's decree. At dawn, Nayira was to be cast into the evil forest, her life handed to spirits that devoured without mercy. But Prince Ademir could not allow it. His heart thundered with one truth. If she died, he would follow. He strode to the inner shrine, where the high priestess knelt before the sacred fire. Shadows danced along the carved walls, the air alive with the hum of unseen power. Falling to his knees, Ademir's voice shook. Priestess, I beg you, spare her. Spare Nayira, take me instead. The priestess opened her eyes, her face carved from stone. You come too late. The gods have spoken. Ademir lifted his chin, his jaw set, his eyes wet with fire and tears. If they demand sacrifice, let it be mine. Not hers. Let her live, and I will give everything, my blood, my throne, my life. His voice cracked, but his will did not waver. The priestess's staff glowed faintly, her lips parting in shock. You would lay yourself down. For her, yes, Ademir whispered fiercely. Because for the first time, my love is greater than my desire. Let the gods take me if that is what they require. But she must live. The flames roared higher, rising like a storm. The chamber trembled, the very air thick with power. A voice thundered, ancient and vast, shaking the ground beneath them. At last, the fire of man bends to love, not lust. At last, sacrifice replaces earthly desire. The curse is ended. The fire leapt toward Ademir, engulfing him in searing light. Nayira's cry split the night. She had burst into the shrine, breaking past the guards, her hands reaching for him. No, she screamed, clutching him through the blaze. If he goes, I go with him. I will not live without him. The flames wrapped them both, and then, instead of burning, the fire softened, turning golden. It cradled them, kissed them, blessed them. The priestess fell to her knees, tears spilling as she whispered, the gods have chosen mercy. When the fire faded, Ademir and Nayira still stood, alive, unharmed, their hands entwined. But something was different. Their eyes glowed faintly with the same golden light, their bond now sanctified. The voice of the gods rang once more, softer now, like a blessing. Go forth, together. No more shall your love be curse. What was once ruin is now redemption. The chamber filled with silence, but it was no longer heavy, it was full, alive, shimmering with possibility. Ademir cupped Nayira's face, pressing his forehead to hers. His voice trembled. We're free, Nayira. At last. She sobbed against him, her arms wrapping tight around his body. You are my forever, Ademir. In this life, the next and every one to come, but please I want to see my father. Ademir chuckled. At once, let us change and get fresh clothing before riding out. Outside, the first light of dawn spilled over the kingdom, not with the darkness of exile, but with the brilliance of renewal. The evil forest remained untouched, silent and waiting, but Nayira never saw it. She walked out of the temple hand in hand with the prince, no longer cursed, no longer doomed, only bound by a love the gods themselves had blessed. The people whispered of omens, of miracles, of fire that turned to gold. But in the end, the kingdom remembered this truth. Love had conquered fate, and together, Ademir and Nayira claimed their happily ever after. Epilogue. The Golden Dawn. Years had passed since the night of fire and sacrifice. The kingdom of Ilurin was no longer shadowed by whispers of curses or omens. Instead, it thrived, its fields blooming richer than before, its rivers running clear as crystal. The people said the gods had blessed the land anew, and at the heart of that blessing stood the king and queen. Ademir and Nayira ruled side by side, their bond unbreakable, their love no longer hidden but celebrated. In the great square of the capital, bards sang of their trials, of how the prince once offered his life for love and in doing so broke a curse older than memory. Children listened wide-eyed, their faces glowing in the torchlight, dreaming of a love so fierce it could bend the will of the gods. But beyond the tales, the truth lived quietly in the palace. On warm evenings, Ademir would stand on the balcony, his arm wrapped around Nayira's waist, watching the sun dip into gold across the horizon. Sometimes, when the light touched them just so, their skin shimmered faintly, golden sparks that no one else could see. The fire of the gods still lived in them, not as a burden but as a blessing. In time, the queen bore children, strong, bright-eyed heirs who carried the warmth of that same golden spark. The priests called them, the dawn-blessed, children of a union sanctified beyond mortal reach. The high priestess, now older, frailer, often came to the palace to see them. Her stern eyes had softened with age, and whenever she looked at the royal family, she bowed her head, not in command but in reverence. The gods were right, she admitted once, her voice low, her staff trembling in her hand. It was never lust they feared, but the selfishness of men. You proved them wrong. You proved that love could conquer desire, and sacrifice could rewrite fate. Nayira only smiled, her fingers entwined with Ademir's. We did not conquer the gods, she said gently. We simply showed them that love is no enemy to their will. Ademir pressed a kiss to her hand, his eyes lingering on hers as though the centuries themselves still hung between them. And I will spend every life to come reminding them of that truth. The kingdom flourished, the people prospered, and the tale of their love passed into legend, told not as tragedy but as triumph. And when the stars lit the night sky, sometimes a streak of golden fire cut across the heavens, a reminder to all who looked upward that once, a prince and a maiden defied fate, and in doing so, redefined it. Together, they ruled. Together, they lived. Together, they loved. And in every whisper of wind, in every dawn kissed with gold, their happily ever after endured.